I feel like this is a year of in the NFL where it feels like the upside down is now the right side up, where it's the Bills and the Chiefs who look untrustworthy. And now it's these new teams that have risen to the surface, whether it's the Colts, whether it's the Broncos, and dare I say the Bears. I feel like every time I see their record, I feel like I have to do a double take. I'm like, this team has 8
I know.
wins? What?
I cannot believe it. I I did not like. I'm stunned right now. I look down. I'm like, oh, the Bears won again. Oh, the Bears won again. Oh, well, the Bears won again. How about eight of 9? It's just sometimes it's really difficult to break old narratives or things that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And even after that repetition, you're like, no, 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 no. The Bears won again. Like, I think in my mind, I'm hearing lose or something. But yes, they are. I didn't really buy a lot of the Bears hype going into the season, but they have been the real deal thus far. And Ben Johnson's done a great job. But you're right. A huge surprise. And I have to get into my thick head that these guys are playing great football because they are.
I will say they've played a lot of close games, and maybe that doesn't bode well for their future because eventually the pendulum's going to swing the other way. But like we're creeping up on December. Like again, like now we're starting to see like what teams truly are. So maybe we need to start believing in the Bears. So why not ask somebody who covers the Bears? Let's bring him in now. He is Gabe Ramirez. He is host of Inside the Fire on CHSN's The Chicago Lead. So let me ask you, Gabe, what should we be thinking about this year's Bears team?
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, guys, thanks for having me back again. This is a Bears team where when you look at the NFL in any given season, there are 5 teams that you can point to that can certainly vie for the Super Bowl. And then there's probably about 12 or 13 just bad teams. And then somewhere in the middle is where, you find some hodgepodge of squads that could contend, maybe making it in the playoffs, in the hunt, might miss it by a game. And that's just where the Bears are right now. A lot of people giving them flack for not beating good teams. There's my air quotes for you. But the fact of the matter is, if you're beating the bad teams, then you are a good team. You're just not one of the best teams. And I think that's what fans across the league are understanding right now. In the present, obviously the Bears have a big test in front of them against the Eagles on Friday, and two of their next 3 games after that against the Green Bay Packers. So they're going to be tested. But, the fact of the matter is Ben Johnson has the team playing well. When you're looking at their offense, they're 6th in the league in total offense, 8th in points per game, 2nd in rushing yards per game, and then on the opposite side of the ball, 1st in takeaways. So that right there isn't a recipe for a Super Bowl, but certainly a recipe to be considered a good team in the NFL.
So when you look at the Bears, outside of the job that Ben Johnson has done, the job Caleb Williams has done, getting better, but what is there a player or part of the team that has really stood out that we're not paying enough attention to?
It's the offensive line. And you can look no further than that. When you're thinking about Drew Dahlman, the addition at center, obviously a position the Bears struggled at for years. And then you bring in Jonah Jackson, someone that's familiar with Ben Johnson's offense. He came in from the Rams via trade. So it was that interior of the line that really needed some help. And then when you go to the tackles, Darnell Wright, another year under his belt as a starting right tackle for the Chicago Bears. And then on the left side, you got an undrafted free agent in Theo Benedict that came in and supplanted the guy that was there in Braxton Jones. And then you have a rookie in Ozzie Trapillo who stepped in to replace him on Sunday, getting his first start at left tackle. So it really is the offensive line. Getting Caleb Williams, who's taking way more sacks this year, more time to throw the ball, and then, as mentioned, 2nd in the league in rushing yards per game. Obviously, the offensive line contributing there. So that's the group that nobody's really talking about. It's easy to talk about the sexy Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, but the fact of the matter is it's the big men up front for the Chicago Bears.
It feels to me that it's a narrative that's almost hard to break, in that people want to find reasons to tear down Caleb Williams. And I look at the Bears this year, and it feels very similar to what the Commanders did last year. But so many people love Jaden Daniels. And granted, maybe it was cleaner performance from Jaden Daniels last year. But is there a reason why the Bears couldn't get hot down the stretch and maybe make it to an NFC Championship game?
To be honest, Chelsea, they can, right? To me, that's the ceiling for the Chicago Bears, right? I don't think it is Super Bowl. I think it's losing in an NFC Championship game. And again, that's ceiling. That's not what's expected in my mind. But it really is dependent upon Caleb Williams. When you're looking at this Bears team and how they've won over the last 6 or 7 weeks, it's not with stellar performances from Caleb Williams. I mean, he has a completion percentage that is near the bottom of the league at 54%. He doesn't take a lot of shots downfield. He just said it in his weekly press conference this week. He said, that's not my MO. That's not Ben Johnson's MO. That's not my MO. I don't like to put the ball in harm's way, which is obviously why he's one of the best in the league and turning the ball over, very low interception rate. So I think Caleb Williams, people want him to be super, super sexy. He's the number one pick in the draft. Obviously, Jaden Daniels did a phenomenal job last year. He was the key component of that Washington Commanders offense. But it's Caleb Williams. If he can get hot, if he can duplicate performances like he had on Sunday, maybe clean up the completion percentage a little bit, have extended drives, then this Bears team could look very similar to a Seattle Seahawks team that can put up points, has, serviceable defense, and a really good running game.
Yeah, this is going to be an easy answer, but when you talk about vibes, when you talk about culture, when you talk about bringing players along, how much different has Ben Johnson been from Matt Eberflus? I mean, we're talking like night and day.
Yeah, it really is crazy. I got to be honest. I was one of the Bears fans that thought, okay, another offensive guru. We had Nagy. We had Trestman. We did this already. Is he going to have the gall? And I think the number one thing he took away from Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions, is that grittiness, is that toughness. And sometimes, as we know in media, growing up in the ranks, right, whether you were an intern, whether you're working on your first show, you take something from everybody that you're in a room with. It might be an approach. It might be some phrasing. It might be, dialect. But that's what Ben Johnson did in that move. So comparing him to Coach Eberflus, there's a huge level of accountability, not only for himself, but for the players. And I think he doesn't hold back in doing so. And he saw that in training camp with Caleb Williams. So it starts there. And I think the toughness of this team, this believability, and when your coach can put you in a position to win. There's been games where he's taken the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands and said, I don't care if I got a 7th-round running back named Kyle Monanga, I'm going to give him the rock because I feel better in winning a game doing that. And I think people understand that. People are saying, okay, this guy is not showing favoritism, and that's exactly what Eberflus did when they brought in Caleb Williams. They catered to him too much, and sometimes guys need a kick in the butt, not a pat on the back, and Ben Johnson is the former and not the latter.
All right, so obviously we're looking at some of these lines for the upcoming week. How do you think the Bears stack up against the Eagles? Because odds makers are giving Chicago 7 points in a game against an Eagles team that's been a little lackluster this year. Do you think the Bears can keep it close?
Chess, I wish the Eagles would have beaten the Dallas Cowboys last week, so that way they could have been riding a high, and then maybe we could have been the trap game. But I think, they're going to be focused, dialed in, and the Bears have been the beneficiary of some bad quarterback play and some fortunate bounces in the form of interceptions and fumbles. So I think against this Eagles team, they struggled on deep balls, the Bears have defensively. The secondary is really banged up. Obviously, Tyreek Stevenson just went down. They're hoping to get Jalen Johnson back. But I can see, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown getting big yards over the top. And then Saquon Barkley, oh my God, who's going to stop him, right? So I think it's sustained drives by the Eagles. I think the Bears will struggle offensively. As a Bears fan, I can't tell you to go ahead and fade the 7 points, but I can tell you that's going to be a good game. And I wouldn't put money on this if I was a Bears fan for your Windy City Monsters of the Midway. That's what I'd say. Eagles are a good team.
We'll see. We'll see if they finally look like a good team for an entire game. All right, he is Gabe Ramirez. He is host of Inside the Fire on CHSN's The Chicago Lead. Always great with everything Chicago. Gabe, thanks for stopping by.